Welcome to Something to Talk About from the Bainbridge Island Senior Community Center. Today we're going to be talking about the Chamber of Commerce and all that goes on in that little office and beyond it at the corner of Bejune and Winslow Way. Lindsay Browning, who is just starting as the new CEO and president, is that the title? Uh,
Executive director.
Executive director is just getting started. I think you were just telling me 9 days. And Matt Grady, who's the head of the board of directors, is here. Before we get started, I want to thank sponsors, and the chamber can understand the importance of having sponsors for getting stuff done. And we are grateful to Fieldstone Communities of Bainbridge Island because they underwrite these programs here at the Senior Community Center. They have independent, assisted, and memory care facilities and support up on Rolling Bay. They have a beautiful campus up there, and you can take a tour and even get a free lunch. Just give a call to Celia or Jamie, 206 594 1010, 206 594 1010. Check out their website at fieldstonecommunities.com. And we would be remiss not to acknowledge that we are meeting on the ancestral homeland of the Suquamish people, the people of the clear salt water, expert fishermen and canoe builders. They have been plying these waters of the Salish Sea since time immemorial. We honor them and we are learning from their stewardship of our local environment. So thank you, Lindsay and Matt. I'll just start with welcoming you, Lindsay, to your new role. I know that we worked very closely together when you were right across the street helping out with the rowing center getting started. But new horizons.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. This has been, it's not a significant move in terms of distance. I could almost see the rowing center and senior center out my window. But it's definitely a different scope, and I'm really excited to have an island and community-wide impact.
So I know that you have a fair amount of experience in nonprofits and in the business world, and I wonder if you might just give us a little bit of sort of a context of what experiences you're bringing as the new chamber director.
Sure. So I actually have quite a bit of experience in both, but they've actually operated for most of my career in parallel tracks. I grew up in a family that felt very important about volunteerism and community involvement. Both of my parents served on boards as long as I can remember. And so as soon as I started my own professional career, it was important to me to do the same. And so I actually sought out the opportunity to receive board training and to become a board member and to give back. My very first board was actually a really big one, which was the Campfire USA. I was in a position as a marketing consultant to be assisted with placement on that board. And it was an unbelievable training in nonprofit board work at an age, younger than many, I think, board members and volunteers get that sort of training. It has been part of my personal ethos just to stay on a board in some form. Sometimes I overdo it with 3 or 4 and I need to sort of reevaluate my priorities, but it's been important to me for, over 20 years now. And so when my family moved from Seattle to Bainbridge, my engagement then began here first through connections with the West Sound Wildlife Shelter. And then as I started growing my family, I tended to follow my kids. I have 3 boys, now teenagers. So I have served on a myriad of boards on Bainbridge Island, ranging from Little League to Bainbridge Schools Foundation. I was the PTO president at what was then Wilkes, and then the PTOCC president for the whole district. That moved all the way up to when I was a board member at Bainbridge Island Rowing, as you referenced. From there, I slid into a staff position to help assist with some significant milestones that they had. The other side of the track was my professional development. So I have significant history in marketing, communications, having worked both in-house and at agencies. Many years back, I started my own consulting practice at the urging of a handful of clients that were beloved. And as I was raising my 3 then very young boys, that gave me the elasticity to take on big projects sometimes or pull back a little bit. And because people tended to sort of stick with me, my practice morphed from just marketing and communications to really whole picture small business consulting. And it became kind of my sweet spot. We were looking at organizational development and fundraising and a whole lot more than just marketing and communications, financial picture, staffing plans, that sort of thing. And so I grew with my clients in that regard. And then I sort of set that aside and founded a small business called Generous Goods that was focused on giving a international platform for businesses that give back to good causes, the opportunity to amplify their mission and be more searchable to consumers and end users. So I built a directory where you could go look by specific cause, diabetes, homelessness, the environment, across a whole slew of options. And we would feed back companies that specifically set aside a portion of proceeds for that. So here I was running these two tracks, and then all of a sudden I was employed by a nonprofit. So BIR was actually my first staff position with a nonprofit. In many ways, this position with the chamber is sort of the perfect combination of the two. So, we are a nonprofit, we serve a community, we want to operate from a posture of service, but we also need the business knowledge and backbone to really do our job well.
Well, and I'm sure that there's a lot of working with individual businesses and crafting programming that supports the downtown and the whole business community. Matt, Grady, you're with Pegasus, and so you have a sense of the importance of having a chamber director who has an understanding of what it's like to run a business.
No, that's absolutely true. And I'll just say, from the perspective of the board, we were thrilled to find Lindsay. I've actually said this a few times in meetings over the last few days as we've been introducing Lindsay to stakeholders, members, constituents. We had a pretty competitive process for this position. We had a lot of applications, frankly, more than we expected. A number of qualified people applied, and it was difficult towards the end. But Lindsay really stood out because not only does she have the business experience and the experience consulting small businesses, where most of our members, probably 95% plus of our members, are small businesses located on the island, that she could connect with members, build engagement, and represent members in an advocacy type role with the city and other community organizations. But she also is a 15-year resident of the island and very involved socially, civically, on a variety of boards, as she was just explaining, and couldn't be more passionate about the place where she lives, and couldn't be more passionate about wanting to see it continue to grow and thrive. So it was really that combination of things that made us excited to appoint her and announce her as the new executive director.
Great. Yeah, we all love it here. And
Yeah.
there are probably a few of us who are nonprofits. The Senior Community Center has been a chamber member for a long time too. And so it's all of us coming together to build the kind of business climate that also is the environment we want to live in and have our kids grow up in. So, Lindsay, could you talk a little bit about, I know it's very early days, but your mind has got to be spinning a little bit about some of the things that opportunities or the things that you are hoping to explore in your new role. Maybe that's the best way to put it, rather than asking you to come down with a plan.
I may not give you my 90-day plan quite yet, but yes, for sure. So many people don't realize that the licensing office that is located here with the chamber is in fact our licensing office. And I think this is so important for your listeners to know. I will tell you, as a longtime resident, it was actually also news to me to understand that the chamber is in fact a subcontractor. We're a sub-agent, and the licensing service that we provide is actually a significant source of revenue for the chamber. When people choose to renew either in person with us, online, or pickup, a small portion of proceeds goes to the chamber. And that line of business is its own unique beast, but it's really important to us because it more than just covers Chris, our esteemed licensing agent. It helps, it generates enough revenue that we can then begin returning that income to the community in the form of all of the things that we do: member services, the advocacy you mentioned, beloved events like the 4th of July. It's really critical. That business is a complicated one. And so one of my very first duties will be just sort of a deep dive into making sure that it is shored up, it is sustained, it's properly staffed, that we look at succession planning related to that business. I mean, we all love Chris and want him to stay here forever, but he would perhaps one day like to make different plans. I hope not anytime soon. So that's been one key factor. Equally as important is really listening to our members, understanding who our current member base is, who they represent, how we can better serve them, how we have been serving them well, and what are our opportunities to expand or build upon or even change ways that we've been working. I welcome as many meetings as I can possibly have, but I'm also looking for bulk data. So we will be surveying our members. So if any members wind up listening to this call, please be watching for a survey. That data helps us pivot as quickly as possible and know where we can invest our limited staff and resources. So that's extremely high on my list of importance. And then probably the third thing is just what I would call operations. We are a nearly 100-year-old institution. We have some of the kind of old paperwork and various things that come with that. And a new set of eyes always brings a chance to sort of tidy our house and do our very best for the community and the public.
Yeah, well, I do think that, I mean, we do a lot more work online here at the senior center. We're storing a lot of material that we used to put in those banker boxes online and trying to make that transition without losing our minds has been a big thing. And so, yeah, the chamber, 100 years. I didn't quite realize how old the institution was on the island. And of course, the other thing about chambers, which somebody might not know, is that there are these individual nonprofit organizations or organizations across the country. They are not necessarily part of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which is a different entity. So it's our chamber, right?
That's exactly right. It is our chamber. That's exactly right. Our accountability via our board is to our members and to the community, this community. That's right. And boy, do I feel you on that transition from the boxes to online. It's critical, and it's something that we will be looking to do, so that and so that this community knows. The chamber really couldn't operate without an unbelievably helpful volunteer corps. We have a handful of regular volunteers, many of whom are also senior center members, and we will be looking for more. And if anybody likes a good dive through a banker's box, we've got work for you.
That's great. So that one of the questions I was going to ask was, what kinds of things do you need help with? But that sounds like one right there, right off the bat.
Yeah, truly, I'm always deeply impressed by the volunteerism on this community. I think so many people over the 15 years that we've been here, we've watched people answer the call, stepping into significant leadership roles, stepping into behind the scenes roles, in so many different capacities. I'm always blown away by, if you ask for help, it does come. And it's something we'll be doing here at the chamber. We'll be building on that volunteer program. We have, as I mentioned before the call started, a stunning volume of individuals who enter our space for very different reasons. We've got the licensing component, which is huge and has a ton of traffic. We have a tourism component. We have sort of curious citizens or specific questions that are coming from areas that maybe don't have another source. Like if Kobe doesn't have the answer, or if TNC didn't have the answer, or Google didn't have the answer, there's a good chance that we will. So the volume of traffic here is high. And one of the biggest things that our volunteers do is just help sort of play do triage on that traffic. They have great information themselves. They also know where to point people and which of our very limited staff, to engage for certain things. So yes, please be looking for our note. Sign up for our newsletter on the website. That's my biggest call. Help us out by broadening that reach and let us give you the information that we think will help you. You will find details on how to volunteer in there for sure.
Sheila, you have a comment?
Yeah, well, you have the kiosk down by the ferry too, don't you?
We do. So the two ways that we serve tourists are out of our office here, and then out of the kiosk that is just next to the commuter comforts hut there, just on the east side of the ferry building. And that is staffed year round. And that's actually staff that we are able to pay thanks to a grant from the city. And many of those staff members are senior citizens as well. Great resources for the community. Thank you for teeing that up for me, Sheila. Appreciate that.
Well, we appreciated having it there. I know a lot of people stop by there.
It has a considerable amount of traffic. Yes. I'm looking to make it a little more visible. I will tell you, I didn't know it was there before I started looking at this job. So I'm gonna do something to make it a little more prominent. Everybody wanders on their own paths and finds their own way, but that's despite my husband being a foot traffic commuter for years, and he didn't know it was there either.
You probably need neon signs or something like,
I'm
here we
thinking
have
about
it here.
I think so too. I think maybe there's a chance. I did pay it a visit, and I've sent a handful of secret shoppers to sort of check out our services and see what's working.
Good idea.
Thanks. And I think it could use a little dust off. So we're hoping to write a grant for that as well. Sort of, give it a not just a new coat of paint, but a fresh face. The people there are great, but I think we could make the physical space a little more exciting.
So what particular hours are you open down there?
It's 11 to 4, and it is daily all year round.
Yes, Sheila? Sorry.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. I get excited about things like this, like marketing stuff. I love it. I'll blow our horn here rather, at the senior center. At the marketing committee has a wonderful woman by the name of Karen King, who has developed what we call Fob Fridays. Have you heard about that?
Not your events. No, please tell me.
Okay, well, it's been going now for, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 years, easy, I would say. Maybe just prior to COVID, I think we started it. Anyway, what it is we have about 30 businesses in town who have the sign outside saying Fob Friday. And you have one of those right there, Reed? I saw you go to get something.
Yep.
It's a fob that everybody who is a member of the senior center gets. And what they add on Fridays, they can present this to these businesses. As I say, there's 30, 35 of them, and they get 10% off every Friday of whatever. Some of the places still will allow it, a day, work week round, but mostly it's Friday. It's a 10% discount. And there again, there's a sign in the front of every store that has this as well. But it's called Fob Fridays, and it's really super, super neat. Here it goes, Reed. Wonderful.
I love this.
Now these are all the stores that have it, as you can see, just piles and piles of them, which is really neat. And again, it's just a fob that you get when you become a member of the senior center.
That is an outstanding partnership. I'm so glad you shared that with me. Thank you.
Well, become a member of the senior. Are you a member of the senior center? Lindsay?
Here she goes. See, look at her. Anyway, yeah.
What can I say?
We didn't intend to set you up to have Sheila tell you a story about the programs at the senior center, but it does talk a little bit about what a rich and welcoming merchant community we have here. And I
do have thoughts on that, and I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I think that many of our merchants have this sort of duality going, this pluralism, where they need to engage tourists, and that's so critical to their business. But then there's also this importance of being part of the community and encouraging community support. And so truly, just off the top of my head, I'm so happy to hear this program exists, but off the top of my head, I have been exploring shoulder season discounts that are for island residents, and asking our businesses to engage in that, or other things that will draw the community in at non-peak times so that businesses benefit from more sort of steady and consistent income. And this is a really neat example, and it's a beautiful partnership, and the way it's mutually beneficial.
Excellent.
Well,
Excellent.
just to add, I was not aware of it either, and that's unfortunate because we have a business right there in the downtown Winslow area. So maybe afterwards we could talk about how Pegasus could participate in this
Oh yeah,
program.
we'll definitely put you in touch with Karen. But I am, and that kind of idea of activities that are for those of us who live here. We live here, we give here, they used to say at the one call for all, is, it's a great idea that we can sort of enjoy this wonderful place that is in part subsidized by those people who march off the ferry during the summer. And we can then benefit from it when they are otherwise engaged.
That's
So I
exactly
was wondering,
right.
I wondered, Matt, if you might talk a little bit about, from the perspective of the board of the chamber, what kinds of hopes and dreams or feelings about strategic direction have you guys talked about? And I'm sure in the process of trying to select a new director, that was one of the topics.
Yeah, it was probably the topic, that kind of underpinned all the other ones. Hopes and dreams. Well, I think the hope and dream is just for to contribute to a thriving island community, and specifically the business community within that island community. And then there's a bunch of kind of sub points, like how does maybe helping get the word out about what the business community is doing, and how local residents can support the business community, and how the business community benefits them, in ways that may not be immediately obvious. And basically representing business issues in the community. So I see it as sort of a critical role. You mentioned the nearly 100-year history. It'll be a couple more years, will be 100 years old. And over the last 100 years, the Chamber's played such a critical role in major projects on the island that have helped shape what the island has become. Maybe the most notable being instrumental in getting the Agate Pass Bridge built. So that, just to name one that you may have benefited from, or that certainly has impacted life on the island in a dramatic way. So we're I don't think we know exactly what that next Agate Pass Bridge is for the island, but we do have something going on right now, or the city has something going on right now with the Winslow Sub-Area Plan, the comprehensive plan, and looking at basically what is the growth plan on the island for the next 20 years in terms of population, housing, jobs, and what shape that will take. And so I think we want to have a chamber that continues to be as instrumental in shaping that future as it has shaped the island's future up to now. So that's hopes and dreams. I'm happy to be more specific
Well,
if you'd like.
I think that idea that the chamber would be one of the advocates. We here at the Senior Community Center see a related role. We are a host of one of the paper copies of that huge draft environmental impact statement.
Okay.
And we have done a podcast with HB Harper at the city to try to get people to participate. And the chamber is clearly part of that. An active chamber would be part and will be part of that discussion, because we want the island to grow in ways that we live here and can thrive here, and our kids might be able to thrive here as well, that they won't be priced off the island, or our parents.
Right. Exactly right.
So that's part of that advocacy or information that you're looking at, Lindsay, right? Is the idea that maybe there's a way that groups of volunteers and tied to chamber staff might be able to move some of these discussions forward when we're looking at what's coming up before the city council.
For sure. Yeah. In terms of, and maybe I'll segue that into ways to get involved. I mentioned we'll be looking for volunteers, and that's at a very tactical level with the office and with some of the tourism support. We also have a really robust board that has done a lot of really hard work this year to help usher in this next chapter for the chamber. They are all volunteers as well, business owners and key staff at some of our member organizations as well. And we are exploring expanding with additional committees that will be volunteer-led as well. We really want to listen to our members and to the community to see what those might look like, but some examples would include, we do have a very robust economic development committee that just met this morning, for example. It's particularly working on this matter. Some other examples might include community engagement, nonprofit working group. We have others that might be specific to tourism, how we meet and greet and what that looks like. And then we've heard a real request for more networking. So I think we're going to look for additional ways that we can get people together in person. And then I had a fascinating conversation last night at our after hours about sort of exploring community forums and sort of a facilitated working groups online as well for some of our members. So that's high on my list.
And if you're looking for a space, I mean, you know about the rowing center, but if you would like to talk to the senior community center, we are happy to work with you to get people together and talk about our community, because that's one of the things that is very important to me, and I think to our board of directors. I guess the other thing I would just point out as we kind of wrap up here is, if people want more information, you've got a website, and you're probably, I don't know what, probably things are changing on there, but that would be a good place to go, bainbridgechamber.com.
Yep. bainbridgechamber.com. Again, sign up for our newsletter, and it's under that news tab. There you go. Place to sign up there. Newsletter sign up.
Sign up.
Yep. And please, by all means, those of you who are active on social media, go follow us. We are BI Chamber. Nope, excuse me. We are Bainbridge Chamber. We had a couple handles going. We are Bainbridge Chamber on Instagram and Facebook. And we'll be looking to put additional information out there as well, both about our needs and then what we're doing for the community.
Okay, Matt and Lindsay, thank you for your time. I've learned a whole lot just in this half hour, so I appreciate
it. I'm excited, looking forward to working together and to meeting all of your members as well. The Senior Center is, I think, just like we are, a connector. And so we're grateful to partner with other connectors. It means a lot to us.
Great. Have a great weekend.
All right. Take care.
Great. Thank you.